Well, it finally happened. Superstar receiver Devontae Adams has been traded from the Las Vegas Raiders to the New York Jets. He goes from a 2-4 team to a 2-4 team, but his chances of going on a run are a lot higher with Aaron Rodgers and Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew at quarterback. I don't see him as once a Raider, always a Raider. He and Randy Moss are in a different category. However, I wish him the best and I'm not going to burn his jersey. It's time to move on and look forward to yet another rebuild. I can't help but think about former Raiders superstar corner Charles Woodson saying, "Why can't the Raiders have nice things?" The Raiders are obviously known to be a team of castaways no one wants, but anyone can use a superstar. Are the Raiders allergic to superstars? This thing between the Raiders and superstar players didn't just start. It started way back in the 80s and 90s. The Raiders' first ever superstar, and for my money the greatest Raider of all time, was running back Marcus Allen. He won the Heisman Trophy in college. He was the NFL Rookie of the Year in '82. He was the NFL MVP in '85. What happened between '85 and '91 set Allen up to leave in '92 to become the NFL Comeback Player of the Year for the Kansas City Chiefs in '93. Then owner Al Davis seemed to have some sort of vendetta against Allen as he used him as little as possible from '87 on. It was understandable when Allen shared the backfield with Bo Jackson. They were worth the price of admission on their own. It just got ridiculous when Davis set Allen in favor of guys like Nick Bell and Vance Mueller, though. Davis even got mad when his coaches put Allen in to score the game-winning touchdown. What started the feud between Davis and Allen is still unclear to this day. However, what is clear is that started superstars in their prime leaving the Raiders. Hall of Fame receiver Tim Brown finished his career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but he was well past his prime, so that doesn't really count. So the next superstar to leave the Raiders was Woodson. Isn't it ironic that he asked why the Raiders can't have nice things when he was one of the nice things the Raiders couldn't have? The Raiders drafted him in '98, and of course you could see he was special right away. But unfortunately he went through a rash of nagging injuries, and Davis must have grew impatient. Why else would he let a guy that talented go in free agency when he's still young? Woodson went to the Green Bay Packers and was an All-Pro twice while he collected an NFL Defensive Player of the Year award in '09. Imagine Woodson on the other side of Nnamdi Asomugha in 2010 and 11. That was the Hugh Jackson, Jason Campbell, Darren McFadden, and Jacoby Ford era. They had an explosive offense then. They might have had enough defense to make it to the playoffs back then. He came back to the Raiders as a great old veteran safety, but he wasn't in his prime. He spent the rest of that with the Packers. If Davis had only been a little more patient. Superstar receiver Randy Moss was Woodson's teammate his first year with the Raiders in '05, and he was okay despite not having a quarterback. He had 60 catches for 1,005 yards and 8 touchdowns. Then in '06, the bottom fell out. If Davis would have drafted Aaron Rodgers in '05, the Raiders would have been on and coming, but he didn't. Instead, he drafted corner Fabian Washington, and he was a bust. This is a case where bad personnel moves lead to the superstars on your team wanting to leave. There's nothing more frustrating for a receiver than a bad quarterback, and that's what Moss had in Oakland. In 13 games in '06, Moss was only able to give the Raiders 42 catches for 553 yards and 3 touchdowns, with Aaron Brooks, the wrong Aaron, and Andrew Walter at quarterback. Then Davis drafted Jamarcus Russell, and Moss said hell no to that and got himself traded to the New England Patriots. There was speculation that he lost a step, but he helped the Patriots get to the Super Bowl right away with 1,493 yards and a record-setting 23 touchdowns. The dysfunction was too much to deal with. Al's obviously dead now, with his son Mark Davis at the helm. He mended fences with Allen, bringing him back around, and brought Woodson back for the end of his career. However, he has other people making decisions on personnel, and the dysfunction continues. They got rid of nice things for the Raiders too. The first thing John Gruden did when Mark Davis hired him back on as the head coach of the Raiders was trade Khalil Mack. What kind of crap is that? That isn't how you build or rebuild a team. I'm not sure what happened between Gruden and Mack, but trading him was not the answer. The 2 first-round picks the Raiders got for him weren't even close to equal value. Running back Josh Jacobs is a great player, but he only played in all 16 games once for the Raiders, and safety Jonathan Abram was a bust. To me, the only answer is to tell Mack to show up and play for the Raiders or no one at all. Generational players don't show up for you in every draft, and the Raiders usually don't draft well in the first round at all. Therefore, they need to hold on to their generational players when they get them. And now it's Adams. We should have seen this one coming. All the signs were there. He took an extra week off of training camp when his child was born, and there were no complications. On the show Receivers, it didn't take long for him to start talking about getting out of here, because then quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo ran him into a few big hits with his throws. Adams came to Vegas to play with his boy Derek Carr, so he had no real allegiance to the Raiders after they cut him anyway, especially the way they did it. He gave it a try, but going from Rodgers to Carr to Garoppolo to O'Connell to Minshew was a downward spiral he couldn't handle. He had no more patience. Then when you look at the fact that former GM Dave Ziegler had a deal in place for CJ Stroud and Josh McDaniels nixed it, Adams was done. What more can you expect out of today's players? All that being a Raiders stuff doesn't mean jack when the team isn't winning and the organization is in such a state of dysfunction. Adams is over 30 now, so he can't see where he'll win anything in Vegas. That dysfunction cost the Raiders this one too. That dysfunction cost the Raiders running back Josh Jacobs too. I didn't mention him in the video more because he's not a superstar. He did lead the NFL in rushing in 2022 and the Raiders are trying so hard to run the football and failing now, so it's a big loss. The Raiders better have it right when Max Crosby becomes a superstar. He's a Raiders superstar, but if we're being objective, he's not an NFL superstar yet. You at least have to make All-Pro for that, and he has not. Either way, the Raiders lost prime years of Allen, Woodson, Moss, Mack, and now Adams. They were all lost for different reasons too. I'm starting to wonder if the Raiders are allergic to superstars. Thank you for watching. See you next time.